They were cops, trained to protect, to respond, to report the truth. But some truths were never meant to be told. In these stories, 3 men of honor break their silence. These aren't just ghost stories, they're terrifying warnings. What these men found out there didn't stay in the woods. These experiences stay with you for life. And if you've ever seen or heard of something like this, tell us in the comments below. We want to know more. So turn down the lights and listen closely. Help us identify what these men saw. Welcome to Weird Encounters, a place where the ordinary fades into shadow and the unexplainable comes alive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and become part of our ever-growing community of the curious. Now prepare yourself, because what you are about to hear is not for the faint of heart. This story comes from a former California police officer who went into the woods looking for 2 missing hikers and came out with a secret he was never supposed to share. And now he's warning the rest of us to stay far, far away. If you have seen something similar to this or know what it is, please leave a comment below. I used to be a patrol officer in Northern California. That's as much as I'll say. The exact location? I can't give you that. Still got buddies on the force, and to be honest, I don't want anyone going up there trying to prove me wrong. This isn't the kind of thing you want to find out for yourself. It was a December morning, cold, gray, with a kind of wet fog that sticks to your eyelashes and makes your skin feel clammy under your jacket. The kind of winter cold where the air smells like wet dirt and cedar, and even the animals seem to stay hidden away. I'd been asked to check out a remote hiking trail after a report came in about a missing couple. They were experienced backcountry campers, had been off-grid for a few days, and never checked back in at the ranger station. Normally, search and rescue would handle something like this, but with budget cuts and half the search and rescue team out with the flu, the department sent me out alone to do a welfare check. I got there just after sunrise, parked my patrol SUV at the edge of a fire road about 30 miles from the nearest town. No cell service, no radio past a few hundred yards, just me, the trees, and a pair of boots on cold, muddy earth. The trail itself was barely there, just a path cut through brambles and pine, winding its way into the hills like a snake. I followed it for a while. An hour passed, maybe 2. The deeper I went, the quieter it got, and not a peaceful nature hike kind of quiet. This was different, heavy, oppressive, like something was waiting. It started with a feeling like I wasn't alone. I stopped walking. The forest around me stood completely still, no breeze, no birds, not even the distant rustle of a squirrel or snap of a twig, just silence. The kind that presses against your eardrums and makes you swallow hard, like your body's trying to fill in the missing sound. That's when I saw the first clue something was wrong. It was a shredded sleeping bag, hanging in the low branches of a manzanita bush like a piece of meat. Just flapping there, ripped straight down the middle. No sign of blood, no tracks nearby. Just torn fabric caught in the branches, swaying in the windless air like it had been thrown there. I radioed in, but all I got was static. Not surprising. That deep in the canyon, nothing gets through. But still, I had that feeling again. Not just watched, known. Like something out there had already clocked me coming from a mile away. I moved a little faster after that. Maybe 20 minutes later, I came across their campsite. At first, it just looked abandoned. Fire pit, cold, gear scattered around. But the longer I looked, the worse it got. One boot, a half-filled thermos, still warm, a journal left open on a rock, and the trees. God, the trees, about 10 feet up the trunks, maybe higher, were these long, vertical gouges in the bark, clean slices, parallel, like something with claws had dragged itself upward. No animal I've ever known could make marks like that. Not a bear, not a mountain lion, not even a person. These were too high, too straight, deliberate. I should have turned around then. I should have marked it down, hiked out, called in the big guns. But something kept pulling me forward, like I had to see what happened, like it wouldn't let me leave until I understood. That's when I heard it. A whistle. 3 notes. High, low, high. It came from up the ridge, faint and distant, like someone trying to get my attention without raising their voice. I froze. At first, I thought it must be another hiker, maybe someone from the missing couple. But then it came again, closer this time. Same 3 notes. High, low, high, and then again. From behind me. I spun around, hand on my gun. Nothing. Just trees. The kind of thick, ancient trees that let in barely any light, even at noon. I backed up slowly, every step crunching like thunder beneath my feet in that dead silence. Then I saw something move, up on the ridge, maybe 100 feet away, just beyond the fog. Something pale darted between the trees. Not an animal. Not a person. It moved too fast, too smooth, like the forest was bending around it. I tried to follow, climbed up through loose shale and wet dirt, grabbing branches to keep from sliding back down. My heart was pounding. My mouth was dry. I kept thinking, this is a bad idea. You need to go back. But my legs wouldn't stop moving. When I reached the top of the ridge, I saw it. Down in the dry creek bed below, crouched at the base of a tree, was this thing. It was hunched over, long limbs folded under it like a spider. Its skin was stretched tight, pale like candle wax, almost glowing against the dark bark. Its head was oversized and bald, with no ears, just tiny twitching holes where ears should have been. It moved one of its hands, long, fingered, wrong, and started drawing something into the dirt, some kind of symbol, circular, geometric. I didn't recognize it, but something about it made my stomach twist. I must have stepped on something because the creature stopped. Slowly, it turned its head, only the head, toward me. Not its body, just the head, like it was mounted on a swivel. Its face looked human at first, too human, until I saw the eyes completely black, not just pupils, everything, black soulless pits, not reflective, just empty. And then it smiled, not like a person smiles, like something pretending to be a person. Its lips peeled back way too far, revealing these long, narrow teeth, too many of them, packed together like needles. And as it smiled, it let out that whistle, high, low, high. Right then, something slammed into my brain, like a pressure, not a noise, not a voice, but a presence, like it was inside me, digging, sifting through memories, childhood, my dad's voice, my daughter's laugh. It knew everything. I stumbled backward, turned, and ran. I don't remember descending the ridge, just flashes, slipping on wet rock, branches tearing at my face, the sound of that whistle chasing me. I didn't stop until I saw the outline of an old, half-collapsed fire lookout cabin through the trees. It looked like it hadn't been used in decades. The door was half-rotted, but it held when I slammed it shut and barricaded it with a rusted desk. I fell to the floor, panting, trying not to scream. There were symbols carved into the floorboards, circles, triangles, overlapping lines, burned into the wood. Some were still smoldering, as if someone had just carved them hours before. The air was warm, despite the cold outside. But it wasn't a comforting warmth. It felt like being inside a sealed box, like something was trying to keep something out, or in. I heard it outside, pacing, scratching along the walls, not violently, carefully. Like it was tracing something over and over, like it had all the time in the world, and then, just above the sound of my own heartbeat in my ears, I heard it again. That god-awful whistle, right outside the window. High, low, high. I pointed my gun at the door. My hand was shaking so bad I couldn't hold it steady. I checked the magazine. The bullets were wet with blood, but I wasn't bleeding. I didn't sleep. I just sat there in the dark, whispering to myself, gripping the gun like it was the only thing tethering me to reality. At dawn, the sound stopped. Birds returned. The air felt lighter, normal almost. I opened the door and stepped outside. The forest looked the same, but I knew it wasn't. I hiked out without looking back. I didn't stop to check the site again. I didn't even call it in. When I got back to town, I filed my report. I told them everything about the couple, the symbols, the creature, the cabin. My captain looked at me like I'd lost my mind, said maybe I'd been out in the cold too long. Maybe I imagined it. The official report: no evidence of foul play. They listed the couple as presumed lost due to hypothermia. A week later, my report vanished from the system. Completely gone. No paper copy, no digital file. A friend in records told me, off the record, that someone from higher up requested it. Wouldn't say who. Wouldn't even look me in the eye when he said it. That's when I quit. I just had enough of the secrets. I turned in my badge, packed up, and eventually left the state. But the thing is, sometimes late at night I still hear it. The whistle. High, low, high. Last winter, I swear I heard it outside my house. I moved shortly after that. A few months ago, I got a letter with no return address. The letter said, "I saw it too in 1998 in the same area. It knows the ones who've seen it. They never forget." There were also the exact coordinates written in red ink. I burned that letter. I want nothing to do with this any longer. So that is one of my many creepy encounters. I have a whole bunch of strange and creepy things I have witnessed in the past. It comes with the job, I suppose. All I can say is, stay out of the woods and trust your instincts. A retired cop breaks silence about a government cover-up in the California desert. A strange corpse, a mysterious crater, and black helicopters. This is what they didn't want you to hear. This is my encounter. I've never told anyone this before because it still haunts me, and because, if I'm being honest, I was part of the cover-up. This happened in 2012. I was working as a deputy sheriff in a sparsely populated California county. I'm not going to say where exactly. It was inland, south of Mono Lake, but north of the Mojave. It's dry, hot, full of scrub brush, lizards, and government fences you're not supposed to question. The kind of place where strange things go unnoticed, or more accurately, unreported. Now I don't spook easily. I served overseas. I've responded to more gruesome accidents than I care to recall. But what we found out there that day, it didn't come from any world I've known. And I've spent the last 13 years carrying a pit in my stomach, the size of the crater we found in the earth. It started with a missing persons call, just like they always do. A 22-year-old college student named Jason had gone hiking alone on a solo spiritual retreat, as he described it in a note he left for his parents. They hadn't heard from him in 5 days. Normally, this wouldn't be a job for our department, but something about his cell last pinging inside a restricted zone made it fall into our lap. We were told to keep it quiet, told not to contact media, not to involve search and rescue, not even to notify the Forest Service. My sergeant handed the case to me and another deputy and said, "Take a look around. Don't step on any toes." We drove out early, real early. Sunrise was turning the hills to gold and pink, and the Joshua trees cast long shadows across the gravel road. The place we were heading, well, it wasn't marked. You needed GPS coordinates. There were some barbed wire fences in the area with weather-worn government signs. Radiation, military property, do not enter. That sort of thing. But the land was wide open. No guards, no gates. We hiked in 3 miles before we found it. The crater, it was just There. Like someone had scooped out the desert floor with a massive ice cream scoop, maybe 30 feet across, perfectly circular, 10 feet deep, and in the center, something was lying there. It looked like a man at first, maybe a mannequin. But when we got closer, we saw the limbs were too long. The skin was almost translucent, gray-blue, like the belly of a fish. No clothes, no sex organs, no facial features either. Just a thin slit where the mouth should be, and two completely smooth indentations where eyes might have once been. The body was dried out, like it had been lying there for weeks. But there was no decomposition, no smell, no insects. And the worst part? It was warm. My partner poked it with a stick. I told him to stop, but he said, "It's breathing." It wasn't. It moved. But not like something waking up. More like something twitching from the inside. A vibration started, faint but growing. You couldn't hear it with your ears. You felt it in your stomach, like standing next to a generator. I looked around and noticed the sand near the creature had started to shift, like static was building in the air. My partner was backing up slowly, whispering, "I don't think this is ours, man." That's when the helicopter arrived. It came in low and fast, no markings, matte black paint. Within minutes, 6 guys in full tactical gear were on the ground with rifles drawn. They didn't aim at the body. They aimed at us. A man in a silver windbreaker and sunglasses approached. Not military, not local. He didn't show a badge, just said, "You boys found something you shouldn't have." We tried to explain, told him about the missing kid. He cut us off. "The boy is gone," he said flatly. "This area is under federal quarantine due to environmental hazards. You will leave immediately." I started to argue. I said we needed to report this, that it was a public safety issue. He took a step forward, smiled a little too long, and said, "Do you have kids?" I said yes. "Then I'd suggest you do your job and write this up as a false lead. Or would you prefer we come down to the station and explain what really happened out here?" We were escorted out, not forcefully, but I don't think we had a choice. My patrol truck had already been moved, the GPS wiped. We were given new instructions, say we followed a false trail, turned back due to heat and low supplies. If the family asked questions, we were told to offer condolences and refer them to the Forest Service. The body was never in the report. The crater? Never mentioned. And the kid? Listed as presumed lost. Possibly ran away, case closed, but that wasn't the end of it. 2 nights later, I woke up to a noise outside my house. It wasn't loud. It was more like a tone, low, buzzing, not from any machine I recognized. My wife didn't hear it, but the lights flickered for just a second. My phone rebooted. My watch, an old analog, stopped. I went outside with a flashlight. There were footprints in my yard. Not human, not animal. 3 long toes, deep impressions, like claws. And every 10 feet or so, a strange groove in the dirt, like something had been dragging itself. No one believed me. No one wanted to listen. Not my supervisor. Not the station. Not even the guys I trusted. A week later, I came into work and my partner was gone. I was told he'd transferred, just like that. No goodbye, no notice. When I called his wife, she said they'd left the state. She sounded scared, paranoid. The final straw came a month later. I got a package, no return address. Inside was a photograph. It showed a row of black body bags, 11 of them, lined up in the desert. Behind them, 2 men in silver windbreakers, and in the background, that crater. Only now, it was filled in, smooth, clean. Like it had never existed. There was one sentence written on the back of the photo in red ink. They never left. Just changed their skin. I've carried that photo with me ever since. I don't know what we saw that day, but it wasn't just a cryptid. It wasn't just a creature. It was a message, a test, or maybe a warning. And I still don't know which. But I do know this. The government knows about them. Hell, maybe they work with them, because the way they moved that fast, the way they wiped everything clean, that's not just about hiding something, that's about controlling it. So if you're the kind of person who thinks about going out to the deep parts of the desert to find the truth, don't. Because you're not just being watched. You're being allowed to keep breathing. For now. Stay out of these places. Some things weren't buried. They were put here. And when they wake up again, God help us. Ever hear a sound so strange it makes your skin crawl before your brain even understands why? This former officer's chilling tale will make you think twice about who or what might be calling your name out in the woods. He recalls a terrifying case near a remote West Coast national park. He says something was in the trees, mimicking their voices, and it wasn't an animal. I'm a retired cop. Worked over 20 years in a small coastal town tucked between the cliffs and redwoods somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. I won't say which town, and I won't give you my name. Just understand what happened to me, to the other guys. It wasn't just weird. It was wrong. Deeply wrong. This happened in the fall of 2016. I was still on active duty at the time. I remember the leaves had just started to fall in town, but up in the forest, the canopy was still thick and green. We got a call from a ranger, one I knew personally, about strange animal behavior up near a part of the forest that butts against protected federal land. He was concerned about a few reports of blacked-out deer, his words, not mine, and one hiker who said she saw a man standing completely still on the trail for over 20 minutes, mouth wide open, not blinking. Now, I'd heard plenty of backwoods weirdness over the years. Meth heads, lost hikers, even a guy tripping on mushrooms who tried to marry a tree. But this ranger, let's call him Kevin, he wasn't the panicky type. If he said something was off, it was off. So I head up there with two other officers. We're about 10 miles from the coast, tucked up against the side of a range most people don't even know exists. And as soon as we hit the tree line, I felt it, like the air itself was vibrating. Not loud, not even something I could really hear, but my teeth hurt. My molars felt like they were humming. That's not normal. We park on an old service road, the three of us stepping out like we're headed into a ghost town. No sound, no birds, no bugs, just the wind, and even that sounded wrong, like it was moving through a space that didn't want it there. We didn't even make it 50 feet before we found the first thing. A fawn, dead, but not mauled, not chewed, just flattened, like every bone in its body had been compressed without tearing the skin. Its eyes were bulging, and there was a black, sticky substance oozing out of its mouth. Not blood, not vomit, something thicker. I told myself it was disease, maybe some neurological parasite like that thing that makes deer walk in circles. But I could see the other guys were rattled. Kevin was waiting for us at a ranger shack deeper in the woods, pale as a ghost. Told us something had been coming around the last few nights. Said he could hear it outside, but when he shined a light, nothing was there. Just this feeling, like something massive was hiding, just out of sight. He took us to the spot where the hiker had her strange encounter. The ground was soft with loam and leaves, and yet there were no tracks, nothing. Not from a person, not from a deer. And yet, right in the middle of the trail, there was a patch of earth that had been pressed down, like someone had been standing there, heavy. The kind of pressure that leaves a body print, only there was no body. Just that hollow, round depression, as if something was squatting there watching. The trees around it had strange marks too. Not scratches, not carvings. Like the bark had melted in narrow, curling lines, spiraling around the trunks like vines. You'd touch them, and your fingers would tingle, like there was static coming off the tree. Then, we started hearing it. Not footsteps, not animal calls, A clicking sound, short, staccato, rhythmic, not close, but not far either. We looked at each other. No one said a word, but we all reached for our sidearms at the same time. Kevin muttered something under his breath. I only caught one word. Skinner. Now, I'd never heard that before in this context. We had a suspect years back we nicknamed the Skinner for obvious reasons. But this was different. It felt older, like Kevin hadn't made it up. We kept moving, deeper. I remember it started getting darker, but my watch said it was only 2:30 in the afternoon. The trees got denser, yes, but the darkness, it felt alive. It wasn't just shade. It hung, like smoke. Then we found the second thing, a shirt, just a shirt. Folded perfectly on a stump, like someone laid it out for laundry. Fresh, still warm, and it was inside out, but folded like it had been peeled off the body and left there deliberately. No name tag, no blood, no body, just a blue cotton shirt, size medium, smelling faintly of cedar and sweat. We were done joking around by then. Kevin said he wanted to take us to something he found 2 nights ago but hadn't reported. We followed him about a quarter-mile off trail until we came to a gulch, and there, hanging by twine from 3 different trees, was the shape of a man. But not a man. It was made of animal skin, patchwork, stitched together crudely, deer hide, fox pelt, and something white and hairless I didn't recognize. And inside the man, if you could call it that, were bones, human bones, not full ones, cleaned and polished, a jaw, a few ribs, a femur, cracked and hollowed. The worst part was the head. It was a deer skull, but it had human teeth jammed into the snout. And the jaw, it moved. We all took a step back. Kevin said it was some kind of effigy or warning. Said the local tribes never spoke about this part of the forest, and when they did, they only called it the Hollow Root. We wanted to go back, radio this in, call backup, but that's when we heard it, above us, in the trees. Click, 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 and then something else. Mimicking. It was mimicking our voices. I heard my own voice say, Jesus, we need to get out of here. Except I hadn't said it. Then I heard the other officer's voice, his real voice, whisper, That's not me. We aimed our flashlights upward, and we saw it. Just for a moment, something long, pale, thin as a shadow but with joints that bent wrong. Not like an animal, not like a person. It had no eyes, just a smooth, wet surface where a face should have been. But it was covered in mouths. Dozens of tiny mouths, chattering, smiling, clicking, repeating our words like a choir of insects. Then it fell, not dropped, not jumped. It unfolded from the tree, like a spider letting itself down, limbs too many to count. We fired, all 3 of us, point blank. But when the muzzle flashes cleared, there was nothing, no body, no blood, just silence, and the shirt, folded on a stump again, only this time. It was my shirt, the same one I was wearing under my vest, still warm, still damp with sweat. We ran, didn't stop until we reached the truck. Kevin stayed behind, said someone needed to log the evidence, said he'd catch up. He never came back. 2 days later, another ranger said Kevin took a personal leave. 3 weeks after that, his cabin burned down. No body, no investigation. The official report? Lost hiker, dehydration, possible exposure. My partner and I were told to keep our mouths shut, that the feds were looking into it. We were debriefed, told it was a psychological event. Mass hysteria, some kind of gas leak or freak mold reaction. You name it, they said it. Except none of that explains the shirt. None of that explains what I saw in that tree. None of that explains what I still hear sometimes, just before I fall asleep. Click, click, click. Don't go looking for this place. Don't ask about Kevin. Don't try to track me down. Just take this as a warning. Some things in the forest aren't animals, and they sure as hell aren't people. And so, another strange encounter fades away. A trick of the mind, or something far more unsettling. That's for you to decide. Thank you so much for watching my stories. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support is what keeps this channel going.